Good evening and welcome to our live webinar. I am Tracy Harrison, First Vice President and Program Chairman of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Zeta Omega Chapter. I bring you warm greetings on behalf of our chapter members, myself, and our chapter president, Courtney A. Coffey, who is unable to be with us this evening. Our discussion today is brought to you by Target 2 under the excellence administration of our international president and CEO, Glenda Glover. Target 2 focuses on issues of women's healthcare and wellness. The focus topic for this evening is coping with stress. As we continue to navigate what many are calling the end of the pandemic, I'm not so sure, but we see a rise in mental health crises around the country. All too often, people are feeling a sense of anxiety, being overwhelmed, and a lack of clarity on exactly what the next steps that they should take, or what they should be, or where they should start. Our goal tonight is to provide some simple tips, yet empowering tips on how to recognize the risk of stress and what you can do to positively bring your stress down to acceptable levels. We know that we all experience stress in different ways. But we hope that you all will take away some strategies that will carry you through these stressful and uncertain times. As the program chair, I would like to thank Leslie Goffney for her leadership of Target 2, Eleanor Lewis for sharing her pearls of wisdom tonight, and the entire Target 2 committee under the leadership this evening of Monica Roche for bringing us this very important webinar tonight. I invite you at this time to take a moment, text, call, email, or shout out to all your family and friends to come on and join us as I turn the program over to Leslie Goffney, Target 2 Chairman. To Leslie will bring us further in the program. I pray for you all a safe, joyous, stress-free event. Thank you again for joining us and be well. Leslie.
Thank you, Tracy. It is my esteemed honor to introduce Eleanor Lewis as today's speaker. Eleanor is a well-practiced school psychologist in a diverse public school district. Her over 20 years experience covers cognitive and academic assessment, consultation, social emotional development, behavior support and management, and various aspects of special education process. An advocate of whole child perspective and social justice initiatives, Ms. Lewis has expertise in assessment of low incidence disabilities, collaborative problem solving, and growth mindset approaches. She is a founding member of the Bridges Beyond 17 Giving Circle, an 8-year Girl Scout troop leader, and a proud 30-year life member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Join me in welcoming Eleanor to our virtual stage.
Thank you, Leslie. As we get started, again, I just want to remind everyone that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so thank you for taking this opportunity to learn and grow and develop some skills to manage stress. Again, we're going to be building our coping house. And how are we going to do that? We are first going to talk about our foundation, our understanding of stress, how it impacts us, how it affects us. Then we're going to move up the house and we're going to fortify our strong walls. And those walls are those things that we can control. There are a lot of things that are within our control that will help us manage and deal with the stress that we will inevitably experience. And then we're going to go up to the functionality. A house with no roof is not very functional. And so we're going to talk about very specific and discrete coping strategies and skills that will help us manage. But first, again, it's a Wednesday evening. It's a little later in the evening. So we all might be coming to this program, with a little bit of heightened stress. So the first thing I would like you to do is, if you have your cell phone available, snap a picture of this QR code. We are going to do a breathing technique that will help us kind of calm and focus and be available to learn. I'm not expecting you to learn or take everything away, but one or two nuggets that you can actually, hit the ground running and use immediately is the goal for this evening. So I'm going to lead us through this guided breathing activity. It is lotus breathing. And so what we're going to do is take 5 kind of deep cleansing breaths. And we're breathing again from our diaphragm, not from up here, but down deep in our belly. That is going to get us calm and focused for the evening. So on my count, we're going to breathe in and breathe out. That's 1. Breathe in. Breathe out. That's 2. Breathe in. Breathe out. That's 3. Breathe in. Breathe out. That's 4. And our final deep breath. So again, deep breathing is a quick and easy strategy that we can use in any location, in any environment to help us manage our stress, calm us down. And so there's your first nugget. Again, as we think about and look at stress, what is stress? Stress is that kind of mental or response to a mental or emotional pressure, challenge, or demand. And this emotional challenge can be real or perceived. Stress will often lead to feelings of emotional or physical tension. So we feel stress in our bodies. And it can come from any situation, an event, a thought that leads to kind of an emotional response of frustration, of anger, sometimes of sadness, of feeling overwhelmed. And the reality is long-term stress has an impact. There's an effect of wear and tear on both our minds, our bodies, and our mental well-being. Another way to kind of conceptualize stress, and this is from the American Institute of Stress, it's a condition or feeling experienced when a person perceives, and again, that perception can be accurate or not, but the perception that the demands that you have are exceeding your personal and social resources. And so you're not able to mobilize the resources that you have to address an issue. And so again, one of our goals tonight is to give you more resources. So a quick check. I want everyone to kind of do a quick temperature check. If you are in this moment having minimal stress, we have a comment section. If you can drop a 1 in that comment section. If your stress is manageable, like there are things going on, but you are dealing and coping and getting, done the responsibilities that you have to do, drop a 2 in the comment section. But if you're at that level 3, if the stress that you're feeling is malicious, and so it's impacting your ability to cope and function and connect with others, drop a 3 in the comment section. And we have Monica monitoring the comment section. So if Monica, if you could let us know what people are sharing out, that would be appreciated.
Sure, Eleanor. So it seems based on the comments that number 2 is the majority, that people are feeling a manageable amount of stress.
Excellent. That's good to hear. So it sounds like, again, the stress is manageable, and maybe you've come to this evening with some coping strategies and skills. And we hope you learn more as we go along. Just a comment. I generally work with young people, and I know often when we are feeling stressed and overwhelmed, we kind of reflect back and want to and think about, oh, I wish I could go back to a time when I was younger, when I didn't have bills and I didn't have these other competing responsibilities that tend to give us stress. But the reality is, kids feel stress as well. Their stress is often different than ours as adults, but it's there. And so just to acknowledge that kids experience stress too. I also thought some of the things that stood out on the adult side of stressors that we might experience, marriage and divorce. So being in a relationship generally is stressful. And so it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. But the other thing that stood out to me on the adult side was retirement. And that was surprising to me at first. But then I thought about the fact that, when you retire, sometimes you lose connection with others, you lose routine, you lose structure. So, I think often we think about retirement as a joyful, happy occasion, but it also can be stress producing. So these are some of the stressors that we kind of experience on a daily basis. And again, the kind of long-term stress that we have all been subject to related to the COVID pandemic kind of puts us at a disadvantage. And stress, how does it impact us? It impacts us across a variety of functioning levels. So it impacts our thinking. When we're highly stressed, we may have a lot of negative thoughts, a lot of kind of extreme thinking, like I can't, I never, something will never happen. So that extreme and tendency towards negativity. Oftentimes our thinking is confused, and we have trouble concentrating. We also may have memory issues, or we often can obsess over the thing that's stressing us, which can lead to more stress. On the emotional level, again, the emotional reaction to stress can be varied and wide. We might have fear or panic, or an inability to manage frustration. There may be anger or sadness. So the emotional reaction to stress can run the gamut. And then there's that physical reaction to stress. We feel the tension. I know this past week I've kind of had a lot of competing responsibilities, and I get my eye twitch, and I know, okay, I need to do something because the stress is really showing up in my physical functioning. Other physical impacts of stress may be headaches, or the rapid heartbeat, difficulties breathing, and sorry, but in difficulties with our ingestion and stomach problems, or even impacts on our sleep. So stress can, again, impact us across our functioning. And it's real. That's the thing I want to kind of hit home. Stress is real. It happens. And so we can't eliminate it. So what are we going to do? We're going to learn how to cope and deal with it. So as we're thinking about coping, maybe you're sitting at your desk right now, or wherever you're tuning in, and you have a bag of chips, or you have some gummies, or you have a glass of wine that's waiting for you when this presentation is over. So sometimes we're coping in a way that's not very adaptive and can have kind of long-term effects. So what are some of those ways where we are coping in a maladaptive way? We might be overeating. We might be excessively using alcohol or other controlled substances, legal or not legal. If we're doing too much of that, it's probably we're not coping effectively. Binge watching. I hear a lot of people talking about, using their weekend to kind of watch a whole series. That's probably not very effective, and that's an indication that you're not coping well, because one, if you're binging, an entire series, you're not making connections. You're not connected to other people. You're not moving. You're kind of sedentary. So again, binging a series over a weekend, over a day, is probably not an effective way to cope. Some people gamble, other kind of maladaptive coping, excessive shopping, having a box from Amazon coming to your house every day, may indicate that, you're channeling that stress probably in a maladaptive way. And just, again, avoidance and disengagement. If you're not connecting with others, that's probably another indication that, we're not dealing with our stress in an effective manner. So what are some ways that we can cope and use strategies to deal with stress? I'm going to hit kind of 6 broad areas this evening. So first, we're going to talk about control. What are those things that we can control that kind of prime us to be ready to cope with stress? Then we're going to do another grounding technique. If you Google grounding, there are lots of different strategies. But what's helpful about grounding techniques is that they are immediate. You don't need any special devices or equipment to do them. And so grounding techniques are really a very efficient way to cope with stress and manage stress effectively. We're going to look at some very specific coping strategies and talk about the pros and cons of each one. Then we'll talk about time management. We'll move into mantras and affirmations. And finally, we'll talk about visualization. And so all these are strategies that can, in the moment, help us calm, bring our stress levels down, and hopefully cope more effectively. So again, control. Oftentimes when we are dealing with stress or anxiety, we are functioning kind of in the outer realm of this visual. So we are trying to control things that we do not have any control over. For example, with COVID, we don't have any control over the fact that the pandemic is here. And so giving a lot of attention and focus to that issue will be stress inducing. Another issue, there was the leak of that Supreme Court decision that, again, we don't have any control over that. And so if we're focusing so much on that, that is, again, going to raise our stress level and impact our ability to cope. And so as we're trying to cope better, we want to be functioning within the center circle here, things where we can take control. So we're going to be like Janet. We're going to take control. And what are the things that we can effectively take control over? And again, set ourselves up for success when we do face stress or stress-provoking activities. So the first is our nutrition. This is an effective way to deal with stress and anxiety. We want to make sure we are having balanced meals, that when we look at our nutrition, are we getting sufficient fruits and vegetables? That should be the majority of our plate. And then we're looking at our proteins and our carbs to round out that plate. But healthy, nutritious meals are one thing that we can control that will help us when we have to deal with stress and stressful situations. The next is, again, hydration. It's so important. We lose fluids every day through perspiration, through our breath, through our body movements. So we need to replenish those fluids. the most recent statistic that I found was that women need about 11 and a half cups of fluid a day. And that sounds like a lot. And so the goal is not to try to do that tomorrow, but we want to incrementally get closer to that goal. And so maybe if you're only drinking 1 cup a day, maybe moving to 2. So taking small steps to get there. And also, about 20% of our fluids come from food. And so we want to make up that 80% by hydrating, drinking lots of water. You can also drink other beverages, but water is kind of the best form of hydration. Another area where we can take control is our sleep. Sleep hygiene is so important, and it's foundational for our overall functioning, our mental functioning, our physical functioning. And so we want to make sure we are sleeping well. And sometimes that means auditing kind of our sleep environment. If we have our devices in our bedroom, if we have the TV in the bedroom, those are distractions and can impact our sleep. So really thinking about having a routine, a sleep routine, getting some of those devices and electronics out of the bedroom. You should have maybe a separate area for viewing movies or TV, but getting that stuff out of the bedroom and really making your sleep environment conducive to sleep and rest. Movement again is a pivotal area where we can control and we can do better, and that's going to again set us up for success in coping with stress. How many, if you've heard of the organization Girl Trek, can you drop a yes into the comments? And maybe Damian can let me know if there are yeses coming through, if people have heard of Girl Trek.
Sure. Let me see. See a few yeses coming in.
Okay.
People have heard of it. Yes.
All right. Great. So Girl Trek is this wonderful organization. It was started by 2 Black women based in LA. And their focus is really just getting Black women up and walking. And their goal is, again, walking for liberation and healing. And I think 2 of the statistics that kind of inspired them to go on this journey was the fact that 80% of Black women over 20 are overweight. And again, that has so many health and social and emotional impacts. And the other statistic that I think really resonated with them to start this movement was that 1 in 2 Black women are predicted to develop diabetes in their lifetime. And so, again, Girl Trek, if you Google them, they are, again, international at this point. And it's all about getting up and moving our bodies. Moving our bodies impacts our mental health, our physical health. We'll look better, and we'll also be able to cope better. So a commitment to getting up and moving is important in our goal to cope better with stress. And finally, connection. Human connection is critical. When we're stressed, we can often kind of retreat and not reach out to others. But it's our social systems, our social connections that can be, a meaningful way to help us cope. Having people to talk to about our stresses, having people to brainstorm ideas to address the stress that we're feeling is so critical. It's interesting when the pandemic first started, and unfortunately the phrase social distancing was coined. I definitely never used that. I felt like that was a time when we needed to come together and be socially connected, maybe physically distanced. We definitely had to do physical distancing, but our social connections needed to grow during that very stressful time. And I'm sure you all, everybody out there has attended, a Zoom birthday, a Zoom anniversary, a drive-by graduation. And so, again, our ability to connect and stay connected during stressful times is critical. This is just a visual that tells us we as adults need 7 or more hours of sleep a night. I know a lot of people, those kind of type A individuals who are go, go, go. They're like, I'll sleep when I die. The reality is they're digging themselves into an early grave if they are not doing kind of that foundational strategy of getting enough sleep. And so, can I get a yes in the comments if we are all going to commit to working towards getting the rest and sleep that we need? So everybody should drop a yes in the comments, because we all can work and control this part of our functioning. So again, another technique is grounding ourselves. And we did the breathing technique earlier in the presentation. This is another strategy that is easy to implement, easy to do. I'm not going to walk us through the whole thing, but again, grounding activities really bring us into the present because we're typically tapping into our senses. And so for this one, it's called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. So you're observing in your environment 5 things that you see, 4 things that you can feel. Maybe it's the chair that you're sitting on or the desk that you're using, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell. And the last one is 1 thing that you can taste. Sometimes I change this for people that I'm working with, and I say maybe 1 positive emotion that you're feeling in the moment, because tasting, you may not have something available to taste. So, but this is another grounding technique that's going to provide immediate stress relief. It's going to bring you into the present. It's going to bring you into your senses and help you to be in a place to cope and function better. This next resource is, again, looking at 6 discrete coping skills, and what's great about this is that for each coping skill that is presented, there are pros and cons that the resource provides. And so again, being cognizant of our time, I'm not going to go through each one, but the ones that I wanted to focus in on were kind of emotional release. And that's, again, where you're at the point where you have to let whatever emotion you're feeling go. When I work with children, I often tell them there is no bad emotion. Every emotion is valid. Now, how we express that emotion may, help us and be functional, or it may get us into more trouble. And so if any of you were tuned in on March 27th, I'm assuming a lot of us were, we saw, the emotional release that was heard around the world. And I'm speaking specifically about Will Smith. And again, he had an emotional release at a very inopportune time. And so the idea with an emotional release is that you should be in a space that feels safe. And again, you got to think about when and where you want to have this emotional release. It might be a real, kind of scream from your gut. It might be a sob, like tapping into your sadness or your emotions, and expressing that and letting that out. But again, you want to think about when and where to do this. And the other one I kind of wanted to focus in on was the accessing your higher self. And there's a lot of research around the fact that if we are giving back, if we are volunteering, if we are supporting others, it improves and helps our own mental health. But again, on the con side, if we're doing too much of that, if we are trying to be saviors and saving everybody and not kind of dealing with our own stress, that can be detrimental. So what I like about this resource as well is that you have this sheet that you can fill out thinking about your coping strategies within all of these areas. And then you can take this with you and you've got that resource right there present to access. So another wonderful way to deal and cope with stress is time management. And this resource right here has been like a game changer for me. If your to-do list has a to-do list, really thinking about the things that you are committed to and figuring out where they fall along these continuums. So if you're thinking about like what you have to get done tomorrow, is it urgent? Is it non-urgent? Is it important? Is it not important? And so those things that are urgent and important and that only you can do, again, that's your priority. And then you get over to the things that are not important and not urgent. Those, you need to take those off your plate. Get rid of those. Things that may be urgent, not urgent, but still important. Those are the things that we schedule. So our doctor's appointments, our health appointments, those are things that we schedule out because they don't have to get done in the here and now. And then the things that are urgent but not important, those are the things we get to delegate. Who else can help us get this task done? And reaching out to those people is important. So this little tool is so helpful. And again, I will say that it takes practice. Like often we think practice equals perfection, but practice equals progress. And so we want to start incorporating these strategies in a systematic way, and we will see that we are managing and coping better. So this is one time management strategy. Next, I'm going to ask if you can drop in the chat if anyone knows what state this is. And maybe Monica, again, if you can drop out if you see the correct answer.
I'm looking to see if anyone's going to take a guess here. So far we have Ohio.
Okay.
2 Ohios.
All right.
Okay.
Correct. This is Ohio. But Ohio is not only a state. Ohio is an acronym for, again, managing the tasks that we have to get done. So as we're looking at what we need to do, scheduling time to finish a task to completion is the idea behind only handle it once. And so if you open up an email, make sure you have the time to respond to that email. And so that is taken off your plate. It's not something where you open it up, but you don't have time to address it. And so it's just sitting there, on your to-do list. And so only handle it once is a great acronym to manage your time better. And again, finish task to completion. Another effective way to, again, when we are stressed and overwhelmed, we often tend to the negative. And so to combat that, we need to kind of effectively and actively use positive self-talk. And so I'm going to show this quick video. This dad is pouring life into his daughter. He is helping her learn the skill to speak positively to herself and use, again, the positivity of her own thoughts to address issues. So we'll watch this really quick. It's 1 minute and 20 seconds, so it's not that long.
Eleanor, we can't hear the video.
Oh. Okay. I think I forgot to click the share audio. So again, we will move on in the interest of time. But again, mantras or positive affirmations, the key points here is that you're using I statements. You're focusing on your strengths and positivity. You don't want a mantra like, I think I'm going to be successful. No, you want to be declarative. You want to be positive. And then you want to write, recite, and repeat. And so that this becomes your response when the negative thoughts come in. You've got kind of your personal mantra to fight those negative thoughts. Another effective coping strategy when you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed is visualization, kind of taking yourself to your happy place. And what's awesome about this is that this is effective if you can really have a vivid image of the place or the thing that makes you happy. The impact on your emotions and your stress are just as effective as if you're actually doing that thing. And so for me, I love to kayak, I love the beach, I love the water. And when I'm feeling stressed, I can close my eyes and take myself to that place. And it's really an effective way to kind of calm myself and bring myself focus in the moment. Finally, I just wanted to talk a little bit about whether maybe you're here not because you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, but maybe you have a loved one or a friend who is really not coping or managing effectively. And so some just thoughts about how to help others who might be struggling with their stress and anxiety. First, you want to share what you're noticing. If someone who is always at, happy hour starts to retreat from those opportunities to go out, or if the person who is punctual and always on time at the meeting, you start to notice that they're late or they're not coming at all. You want to share that not in an accusatory way, but like, I've noticed that you missed the last 3 meetings. Is there something I can do? You want to be open and listen to that person, helping them kind of to identify the stressors that they may be experiencing. It's important to model good coping. So, sharing resources, sharing maybe that breathing, the lotus breathing that we all did together earlier, giving strategies to someone who might be struggling and coping with the stress that they're experiencing. Another strategy is to, again, offer to get moving with them. Let's go for a walk. Let's take this yoga class. And finally, offering, to go with them if it's at the point where they need to kind of consult with their health professionals. Being present and supportive is important. Finally, I just want to say, again, these coping strategies are effective. They can provide kind of immediate relief and immediate calm in dealing with stress, but sometimes they are not sufficient. So if you or someone is really struggling to cope and is dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety that won't go away, that might be the time where they need to, or you need to seek some professional support. And the good news is that anxiety and stress, they are very treatable. Typically, treatment involves both therapy as well as medication. And so if you're at that point, the important thing is to not suffer alone, to reach out, to maybe reach out to your employee assistance program, or one of the resources that we are going to provide has a search engine where you can search for a therapist in your area based on your zip code. So again, we want you to reach out if you are at a point where coping is difficult. And so that concludes the presentation. I know we wanted to leave some time for questions and discussion. So
thank you, Eleanor. I'm sitting here and I'm like, I really need to change my lifestyle because a person that you are talking about. I don't know about you, Damian, but this is
Yes.
really, I'm looking at my notes. Really has me thinking I'm in trouble. So this
I
is
might be in a little trouble based on
A
what
little
you
bit of
wow. So we have some questions tonight, but we really want you to put your questions in the chat. I'm going to spend the end of this program answering questions, but I am going to start with one I have. As a school administrator, often we're sitting in meetings and I see that a student struggling. I've seen a decline in them pre-COVID versus now. So we get to the parent meeting and one parent is all for exploring therapy and one parent is totally against it, just doesn't want to hear about it. Oh, well, they'll be fine, they'll be all right, the kind of thing. So what suggestions do you have for me as an administrator, educator, to support this student and to support the teachers with addressing their needs?
Well, I think again, you have to build that teamwork with the parents. And I think that starts with making sure that things have been implemented. Maybe, we look at our tiered levels of support. And so if the student has access services through the school, maybe through the school counselor or the school psychologist or the school social worker, and things aren't improving, I think just reflecting that, strategies have been tried and put into place, but the student is not responding. So they may need something additional. Um, I think there often still is a stigma about mental health and seeking support. And so helping parents understand that, if a child broke an arm, you would take them to the doctor. They need medical attention. But helping, and it can be a process. It's not, like I'm going to tell you this and you're going to go immediately and get it. It may be a process of really working with those parents to understand the effective nature of getting some support, some therapy. Oftentimes parents want to be that person that the kid talks to, and sometimes that's not a good situation. They may need a third party to share their feelings and develop some additional coping skills.
Okay, I'll turn it over to my co-lead, Danielle.
So, I mean, just doing a deeper dive into what Monica said about getting therapy, how do you encourage your child or your student or someone that is close to you? Or a better question is, what are the signs and symptoms that may come about that may lead to them needing to get professional help? Because I know you showed something that said signs or impact, but how do you know when it's affecting them so much that they do need to get professional help?
So the two things that I think about when I think like what is in place is not sufficient, right? Is, are the issues diffuse? So is it impacting functioning, and is it debilitating, like to the point that you're a student isn't, doing their job, which would be going to school, doing the tasks at school. So if a student is really struggling to go to school, to stay in school, to focus in school, those are kind of the red flags. If they're pulling away from the activities that they used to enjoy, if they are, repeatedly thinking about a situation, so maybe having some specific anxiety or phobias, that's when, there's an indication that they probably need some stronger intervention.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Miss Monica, do you have another question? Are there any questions in the chat?
Looking also on Facebook, and I don't see any right now, but I'll keep going.
Okay.
And yes, anyone who's out there, again, if you have a question, please drop it in the chat. We have about 15 minutes to discuss and converse, so we're here.
How would you how would you start a conversation with someone that you're dating that you may feel that could be your husband, boyfriend, partner, whatever you want to call it, that you really see them struggling, but you because you are with this person and you have a relation with this person, they may not receive some of the advice or receive what you have as a concern. So how would you start that conversation?
It can be difficult, right? Because they're close, and you know, I think you have to be very careful in how you provide your feedback. Be very concrete in what you're seeing. Try to take your feelings and emotions out of it, and really talk about like the impact you're seeing. If they're not, if they're sleeping too much, or if they're not getting to work on time. So being specific about what you're observing, and then encouraging and supportive in helping them take the next step. They might be reluctant. Um, Seeking mental health support continues to be a taboo subject, or a stigma in the Black community. But I think the more we have forums like this where we talk about the fact that there are effective treatments, I think it's important to encourage people to engage in these types of forums, but also encourage them to seek, talk to their medical professionals. If they're not hearing it from you, maybe you can encourage them to talk to their medical professionals about what they're experiencing.
Great. Thank you.
I have a question that we probably won't be able to answer in this setting, but just your thoughts on it. But how do we go about destigmatizing the thought or the need to seek professional help? Because that, especially in the Black community, like that's a big thing that we still struggle with. So, what are your thoughts about how to do that?
I think, again, presenting forums like this, and not just during Mental Health Awareness Month, but being more consistent in realizing that there are supports and services available. Also, if you are in treatment, being willing to share that with others, I think goes a long way. If you have a therapist, and I will say, within the last 5 years, I've heard more and more people say, yeah, my therapist, or so I think the
Yeah.
stigma is coming down, but I think we have to continue to work on it, because again, treatment will lead to better coping. And so if we can
Yeah.
continue to be vulnerable enough to share if we are in therapy, or we know someone in therapy, and really also reflect upon the successes that have resulted from that.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that.
Someone put in the chat that mental health is health,
It's
and
health.
Right?
Yeah.
No, mental health is wealth. Mental health
Yeah.
is wealth. So
Yeah.
that's my mantra. Like,
Yeah.
if your head is not right, other things are not going to fall into place. So
And someone else put in the chat, also destigmatizing suicide in the Black communities. Agree that being more open to sharing your own therapy journey can empower others. Yeah, because mental health is just as important as physical health. Like you said, if you broke your arm, you would go see a doctor. So if something doesn't feel quite right in your mind or your mental health, why not go see a doctor and get
right.
treatment and get any type of medicine for it?
But I
This is just
think, I think, and I didn't try to mean to cut you off, but I just think about how so many of us are in these positions where there's so much pressure because we're the only woman or the only African American, and we don't want to appear like we have a flaw. Like, how do you go to your boss and say, I'm struggling? Or how do you go get that help without someone saying, oh, she's at EAP, or she's here, or she's there, and having that stigma that you're not keeping it together. You're supposed to be this leader.
right, right.
So I think that's some of the reasons.
Yeah.
I think it takes courage, for sure. But I mean, if we continue to have this facade of we can do it all, it wears us down. It's not going to wear, if we if we don't function, we will be replaced. But so we
Very
have to
true.
take care of ourselves, and we have to be honest about the care that we need.
Mhm.
And we have a few questions in the chat. Access to care isn't available to all. Are there free resources to access? What are some websites or social media accounts we can share for those looking for a therapist or a mental health counselor? So I know that we have a resource guide that we're
Right.
sharing.
We do have a
Mhm.
resource guide, and in that, again, there's a search engine where you can find African American practitioners based on your zip code. Um, I don't know that I know of any, free resources at this point. I know when COVID first started, Taraji P. Henson has a foundation,
Yes.
and they were providing some free services. I don't know that that is still occurring, but that's a resource that you could look into. Um,
They have apps. Ginger is a new app that Kaiser is rolling out. It's not a mental health therapist, but it's coaching, and it's through Texting. I don't know if it's free, but in the interest of I need to talk to someone right now, you can still get like assistance and daily things that can help you get through a moment or a day, because getting an appointment with your therapist right now,
right.
it's tough. It is like a 3-month
Mhm.
wait.
Well,
And
I
someone
will
else,
say, though, a lot of therapists have pivoted to telehealth, and so that has become available more and more, and that can be an effective resource. You don't have to actually go in; you can
right,
connect
right.
virtually, and I think that's an important resource to keep in mind.
There's a question back up. I'm going to go back up that
Mhm.
says children have been introduced to microaggressions during the past presidential administration. How do you help them manage?
That's a great
Um,
question.
that is a great question. I think making sure they understand what a microaggression is.
Mhm.
Um, so giving them, kind of a concrete definition, but also helping them being available to talk about what has happened, making sure that they know that they can come to you when something happens, and then implementing some of these techniques. If it's, um, when my son was very young, we would do cosmic yoga. So it's kind of a little fast paced yoga, but it also is something that's going to help me calm, help me focus. But I
Mhm.
think critical is being there and available, and help making sure they know what a microaggression is, and that they can come to you if they're experiencing that, and you can take it up. If it's something that's happening at school, be their advocate, make an appointment, talk to the teacher, talk to the principal. So and letting them know. I think as upper middle elementary school, as a parent of a younger child, you're going to go in and take control. But
Mhm.
as kids get older, you can ask them, how do you want me to help you with this? Because they may
Mhm.
not want you to go in and make a ruckus, make a scene, or as my daughter says, be a Karen. um, Sometimes you got to go, you got to go in and address the issue. So, but that may could also be a part of the discussion for middle high school students.
People
Okay.
have put some tips that Talkspace is available.
Mhm.
The Calm app or Calm apps are great relaxation tools. Insurance plans are doing much better with covering these services. Smartphones have a lot of apps to assist with coping, like Calm, Headspace, and There's Hope. What is Calm? Is that an app?
Calm
That's
is Calm is an
yeah.
app, for a
Calm is
meditation
a
app.
great
That's
app.
awesome.
It
Right.
has a whole lot of resources on it. I
Yes.
use Calm.
Thank you for that disclosure, Sir Damien. That
Yes,
again, that's helpful.
absolutely.
And
It is amazing. Love it. Someone also put, I believe it should be a monthly thing and not just once a year. I believe that will make people vulnerable enough to share. And I think, I don't know if she was talking about therapy or having
I
forums
think
like this. Yeah, forums like this to help people feel vulnerable enough to talk about destigmatizing needing extra help. Yeah, this is
Mhm.
great. Great conversation.
Someone also mentioned going to EAP as your employee assistance programs as a resource. I know my mom died. I definitely used that service because I thought I
Yeah.
had it sewn together,
mhm,
and then it was a couple years later that I think when it really hit, and I was like, "What's wrong with me?" My mother passed 2 years ago, and it took a lot. It took a
mhm.
lot, for me to go, to even make that appointment and put my foot in the door, but it was very beneficial. And then we pay. I mean, it's
You
all
pay for it,
work
right? It's a
included.
service. Yes, it's
Yeah.
a service
Hours
available
I
to
put
you.
in,
Yes.
that I really need to take advantage of that.
And how do you, Eleanor, about, how that statement, we have to be strong Black women, just zoning it. I mean, how do you feel about that? What is something we can do to just discuss that narrative or change it? Because that's why, we're carrying this heavy load with our families. And it's not just Black women, but because I'm a Black woman,
Mm.
we know that statement is out there, and it's related to this stress, anxiety, and all of this.
Well, I think you have to kind of peel back the onion and figure out why can't you be your whole humanity, right? I mean, be- and so figuring out, why are you in a space where you can't be vulnerable? And easier said than done, but like if you are feeling like you are putting on um a shield in your work environment or in your
Mhm.
social environment, like is that a healthy environment for you? And so
Right.
figuring that out, and really, again, I think therapy helps you figure that out, like why do I need to act like I got it all together?
Mhm.
And I think, again, this idea of perfection is very detrimental to our health. Nothing is perfect. Perfect is a
Yeah.
very fixed mindset. We want to have a growth mindset where we are learning and growing and implementing new things to help us thrive, right? So perfect should not be the benchmark.
I know we need to wrap up. I just want to just say just a couple things that are in the chat. Don't let stressors build up before you seek care. That
Mhm.
YouTube has a great meditation and relaxing music. Someone else said they love calm. And that if you find yourself overwhelmed or need crisis intervention, please reach out to 1-800-273-TALK. So I believe, and someone mentioned they were speaking to having these forums more often, not just
Mhm.
once a year.
Yeah.
So that's something we can definitely take back to our program committee. So I just wanted to thank you, Eleanor. I mean,
Thank
this
you.
has been
Yes.
fabulous. You can't
Wonderful.
see the comments, but people are just
They're
found
really
you very
interesting.
informative. They really enjoyed this. We could be on here forever.
Right.
So I know we
Yeah.
only have an hour. Damian, thank you so much for your research and putting together our resource. So after this program, we will have on our Facebook page and our Instagram page. So please continue to follow us so you'll know different happenings. We will have our resource guide that we put together that you might find very helpful and trying to just where do I go? Where do I start? What are the resources out there? So, on behalf of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Xi Zeta Omega Chapter, we would like to thank you for tuning in today. We really, really hope you were able to find some resources in moving forward in this endemic. Who knows when this will be over, if it ever will be over. But hopefully, you found some resources to help just breathe, calm, relax, stay focused, get off the couch, use our apps and our matrix in trying to get our time management underway. So thank you again for joining us tonight. And this has been a wonderful program. And Eleanor, thanks so much for your expertise. Good night, everyone.